Hey, Dee Dee, how's it going?
Hello. Sorry, I'm a little
Oh, it's
technologically
all good. It's
deficient
all
there.
good. I just wanted to make sure, we were on the same page this morning. I know you're excited about talking, and we're going to forego the 30-second countdown, and we'll just start from the beginning here, all right?
There we go. Go right into it. Thank
Let's do
you.
it. So let's welcome all of our fellow KW stakeholders to this live interview. It'll also go on YouTube, so hopefully some people will watch it down the road. But my name is Aaron Kaufman, Chief Stakeholder Evangelist out of Atlanta, Georgia, bringing you another edition of the My 401 KW interview series, where we talk to some of our top profit share earners, stakeholder thinking associates, find out their story, their strategies, their mindset. And you guys are in store for a real treat, because you got somebody on this call that I've known for a long time. Has been at KW longer than me. One of the probably wore every hat at KW. Dee Dee Trosclair, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. Sorry about the delay there.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Look, when you've been on the Wheel of Fortune, you probably get a big head. And no, I'm kidding.
That's exactly what it is. We had production people, makeup. They were doing my hair, giving me my water. I just didn't know what to do without it.
Yeah, no green room for you. But I saw a little bit of what you posted on Facebook. How did it all turn out for you? Just tell us quickly about that experience. Did you win any money? I didn't know if you made it to the end. What happened?
I won some money. I was the highest cash winner on the show.
Oh, wow.
Now this was a dream of mine since I was in my 20s. So for me to actually get on that last season was a big deal.
Yeah.
So, just part of that, checking off those goals, you're never too old to finish something you started a long time ago.
No doubt.
So it was a great experience. And yes, I won, I won $14,450. I'm not going to complain about that. And I got a great vacation out of it with my family. So we had a great time. I got to talk to Vanna White.
That's amazing.
I didn't even know I had a girl crush on her until I actually started talking to her.
She's practically not aged in what, 30, 40 years? I mean, amazing, right?
It's amazing. And she came in to talk to us first thing in the morning, no makeup, just T-shirts and jeans. And I was like, oh my gosh, she's so gorgeous.
That's great. That's great. Well, look, let's get into who you are, what your story is. Take us back, Dee Dee. I know that you joined KW, I think it was in 96. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes.
Why don't you take us back a little bit further. Talk about who you were before real estate, how you and your husband ended up joining KW, and then we'll talk a little bit about the profit share opportunity, what you've built over time, some of your thoughts around that. But tell us your story prior to getting into real estate and joining KW. I'm curious to hear that.
Love it. Thanks for asking. So Steve and I moved to Dallas on our 1-year wedding anniversary. And so we kind of were starting new, I would say. So in the transition, I was the school teacher prior to that in New Orleans. And Steve had never even been to Dallas except in the airport. So I went and found us a place to live, and we loaded up and moved to Dallas.
What was it about Dallas, Dee Dee, that what brought you there?
Jobs, because Steve, 1990, the economy in New Orleans was pretty tough.
Yeah.
And the job that Steve was doing was transitioning into something else. So we were going to need to either move to Miami or Chicago.
Okay.
And I nixed both of those. No offense to the wonderful people now that I know in both of those places, but I felt like Dallas was probably a little closer to home and easier for me to digest as a newly married couple.
Sure. So you guys moved to Dallas, and he
did.
Yep.
So I did not stay in the teaching profession. I required to in the school district I wanted to be in, they needed a master's degree, and I didn't have that. So it was either go back to school, get my master's, or do something different. And so I went into property management, and that was a lesson in abuse, I would say. It was absolutely horrific, but I did it with a smile. I ended up being the person who ran the maintenance division, which was always fun, and freezes in Dallas and all the crazy things that happened. And so I learned a lot, got some real thick skin from that. Of course, the 7th graders, when I was teaching, gave me thick skin as well. So I was kind of prepared for anything at this point. And Steve and I, about late 1991, early 92, we were like, wow, this just kind of isn't working for our financial goals.
Yeah.
And moving to Dallas from New Orleans, the priorities of our friends were kind of different. In New Orleans, it was just about eating and being happy and, great culture. In Dallas, everybody drove a fancy car and lived in a big house. And, I didn't know that they were all $40,000 millionaires, but, in my eyes, I was like, wow, that's something else.
Absolutely.
So we said, well, what do we do to kind of change our projection here? And so I decided to get into real estate. And that was 92.
So you were the first one in. Yeah.
I was. Steve had his license in Louisiana because he was in a company that he had to dispose of some real estate. So he did have some experience in real estate as well, but that was not his primary profession.
Okay.
And so I joined Ebby Halliday, which was it's still a great company, independent in Dallas. And she happened to be related to us by marriage. Steve's brother was her son-in-law at one time. So
and that's traditional, even though it's an independent, right? It's more of a traditional type model, right? I mean, yeah. Okay.
They're very traditional. And I learned a lot there from a perspective of doing things right.
Yeah.
So they were very much inside the box. We wore pantyhose. We wore dresses. We could not wear pants until about 1993 or 4. I actually spearheaded the non-smoking policy in our office.
Right. It was like Mad Men back then, right?
Yeah, it was very interesting. So in 96, actually, I think it was probably 95, I went to a luncheon with a bunch of my realtor friends, and I won the drawing. And this lady named Sue Thompson was with Keller Williams. And I knew of Keller Williams because they had come into the market about a year or so before then. Yeah. And a lot of the top agents had gone there. So it was a pretty big deal. And I hadn't really considered going there. But then Sue called me and said, I'm going to give you this prize, but I want you to meet with my team leader. And I was like,
oh, wow.
No,
wow. Okay.
I just want the prize. And I thought I was kind of a big deal. I was a little aggressive back then and probably still am. And she said, I said, no, we're not doing that. Just give me my prize. And then she would call me about every week. And I was just like, Sue, you've got to stop calling me. And she was quite a horrible recruiter, actually. She ended up learning how to recruit a lot better. Yeah. But it was her, really kind of her first go at it with what we would call a big fish, I guess. And she didn't really have the nuances of it yet.
So she was giving away a prize as like a charity raffle or something like that.
Yeah, like a dinner for 2 at a restaurant or whatever it was.
Well, I love that. Then it's like, hey, if you want your prize, right? It's definitely a different approach, but at least connected you guys. So then she kind of fell forward, right? She was being a little bit aggressive with you, but persistent, okay, nonetheless. Right. And she was an agent that you had done deals with, or you knew of, or
I knew of her, but I hadn't done any deals with her. And she and so we knew each other. But she was, by the way, we're super great friends now. And we became great friends because she changed my life. Right. So I told Steve about 6 months into her calls, I said, Sue, and I know that you've heard the stories before from other people. I will meet with your team leader, which we didn't even know what team leaders were back then. They were all managers. I will meet with your team leader if you will just never call me again. And so I told Steve, so Steve had gotten his license in the meantime in Texas. So we were actually at different Ebby Halliday offices.
Yeah.
And I said, Steve, come with me to this meeting because, I just need to get in and get out. Yeah. And I know you can control the cadence of the conversation.
You need support. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so I had like 50 questions. So I was like, I'm just going to make this as painful as possible.
I love it.
And so we go to this nice country club, probably the one that Mike Brody was talking about when I saw his interview not long ago.
I was about to ask you whether you had, I don't know if it was Mike at KW yet at that point? Or?
Yes, Mike had gotten it all going, and so he was part of that credible group that everybody was looking at going, wow, what's going on over there? Exactly. And so Susan Hubeck was the team leader. So we go in and we meet this very statuesque, attractive woman who is as assertive as I am, maybe even more so, definitely more intimidating because I'm still learning how to be, appropriately aggressive at this point in my life. And so she sits down and within 3 minutes, this is not a joke, she explains the economic model to my husband, who is an MBA and has his own businesses in that kind of area. And he got the numbers so quickly. And this is a man who has lunch with Ebby Halliday every quarter.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a big deal that this relationship that we're loyal to it. Absolutely. And he just immediately did the math in his head. I think he even asked me for a pen or something because there must have been something he was stuck on. Sure. And he was like, I'm in.
Did we offer, were we still doing husband and wife caps back then? Yeah. So that was obviously
husband and wife caps we had, and it was kind of the revenue share model too, before the profit share model. So, that whole experience getting into our true profit share like it is today, we got to witness that firsthand in the IALC meetings and all of this. But we did get to, share in the income early on. And so we got a little taste of that, what was to come.
Just so you and your husband were at Ebby Halliday, both individually. Now, your husband was selling, right, as well?
He was.
So you guys were both paying individual caps, and they were not, individual commissions that were not capped, right?
I see what you're saying. It never capped at Ebby Halliday anyway. Their model, it was a long time ago. Sure, in that model, you were, if you were on 90/10, that meant you were a $60 million producer back then.
Exactly.
So this was $100,000 savings for us, right? According to Steve. Well, actually, in that moment, it wasn't quite $100,000. Our first year with Keller Williams, because our production went up, it was $100,000 difference in our pocket.
Yeah. And how did Susan? Do you think Susan went right at the economic model because Steve was sort of taking charge of the meeting and was showing that he was obviously a numbers guy, and then so she just said, "Hey, look, let's just talk about the numbers and get that out of the way"? Or was that sort of how it played?
100%. And Susan knew our economic model at the company we were at. Sure. And she was very well versed in all the models, and which a great team leader is, right? So she kind of honed right in on that because Steve asked very important questions right up front, and it all had to do with money, where I was looking for something different. Like my questions were all around other things, and
they wouldn't have gotten to your questions had they not passed Steve's initial money sort of concerns, right? About right. Exactly.
That's right. So then we sat there, and poor Susan had to answer my 47 questions or whatever was left on my list. Yeah. And then after that, I am a very loyal, fiercely loyal person. Yep. Steve went to Keller Williams and I did not. But it was the week that they were doing a team building event out in the woods, and they all went and spent the night and did ropes course and jumped off of telephone poles. And so Steve came home from that and said, "Oh my gosh, these people are amazing." I'm going to my office. People are stealing my leads. My manager's glaring at me because she thinks I'm going to Keller Williams because my husband went. Sure. So it's just a different vibe. And so about a week later, I went, I guess I need to go. I just don't even believe this is true.
Yeah.
And so then I went over. So it only took me a week of really getting to see it firsthand to understand what I was missing.
Well, and Dee Dee, I say this all the time, and people know I've been using a hashtag for 12 years called Broker Stockholm Syndrome, right? And look, you loved everybody you worked with at Ebby Halliday. You had probably some great relationships over there. I know in Dallas, it's a relationship, reputation driven market, right? So it was a big decision for you. But at the end of the day, if the people you're in business with truly love you, right, then they should want you to explore the best opportunities for yourself. And so, being loyal to your broker is one thing. I think being loyal to your family is probably the most important thing, right? And even though, you can, unfortunately, these divorces, quote unquote, don't always go well. But at the end of the day, you have to make the best decision for your family. And so you decided to come to KW. You guys were in the same office together, I assume, right? And yes, so go from there. Take us off.
Yeah. So we formed a team. And by the way, Ebby was extremely gracious and kind and caring. So it was a wonderful departure with her. So Steve and I decided to form Team Trosclair at that point.
Yeah.
And I remember passing by, this was about October. Yeah, October was when we joined. November, Susan Hubeck was doing goal setting, and she had a sign outside of her office that said, sign up for goals. And we walked by and she grabbed us and said, you're not signed up yet. They didn't do this at my old brokerage.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what is that? And, we had goals, but they weren't like this.
Sure.
And so she goes, well, you need to sign up because I'm going to go over your goals with you. And I'm like, sure. So got the calendar out, picked a time. We show up for the appointment. She gives us a little piece of paper to fill out before we come, what our goals are. And we sit down with her, and she does not like our goals. And she's, by the way, Susan is one of my great role models for Keller Williams because she knows about accountability.
Absolutely.
And she was real kind in the beginning, but then she says, what have you learned at Keller Williams so far? And so we kind of went through the classes that we had been through and some successes that we were already having. Because then why would you think you would only do 20% more if you've learned all this other, all these other tools and all these other lessons? And this doesn't even make any sense. I don't even understand why you would, think that lowly of yourself. It's just like a real hard-hitting conversation.
I love that.
Do you mind if I just adjust your goals to what I think you can do? And so seriously, she writes on our goals what she thinks we can do, and she doubles our goal.
Amazing.
We had already gone up 20%. I thought 20% was pretty good. And then she scratched out our goals and then she gave it back to us. And I just remember both of us looking at that. Remember, I'm a school teacher that made $14,400 prior to get into real estate. This number was, gave me heart palpitations, which is what your big goals are supposed to do, right?
Absolutely.
And so she gave it to me, put it right in front of us. And Steve and I had to cancel the rest of our day because we had to go plan for this because it was so intimidating to look at that goal. And the nice thing is that at that office, because we had Dick Dillingham, Mike, Susan, we had a great group of people. And they treated us as if we were already on their level. And we were not on their level. We were real solid, strong cappers, but we were not, superstardom at this point. And so they were all treating us as if we were, and they would ask great questions. This is a great lesson for all of us who are building market centers and you're an agent and a leader on your ALC. They would say like, hey, how many listings are you supposed to take this month? Like just a random question, like, do you want sugar in your coffee? Right. Theirs would be like, how many listings are you thinking? Oh, are you on track for that? Like, all of a sudden these accountability conversations are happening all the time. Well, you don't want to disappoint these people. So Steve and I did everything we could to make sure that we hit that double our income goal. And that first year, Dick Dillingham was the MC for the awards. And he knew what our goal was. And we made that goal by something like $250 in GCI. And, I laugh now because it was I'll just tell you what it was, like 180,000.
Yeah.
So, we laugh now and it's like, that's so funny. We were thinking so little. Well, the next year we doubled it again. Amazing. And then there was just no stopping us because of that little bit of confidence that Susan instilled in us that, wow, we were not thinking big enough. And that's when the light bulb came on. It's like, wow, we are in the place where our life is going to get so big. And we just became students of everything at that point. We had drunk the Kool-Aid, as they say.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Dee Dee, one thing I always, talk about is, we all, those of us that have known, been in KW for a long time, have been at other companies, right? We have perspective because we've experienced these more traditional models, and, it's hard to kind of quantify culture and the sharing of ideas and all those things that are hard to quantify at KW. But I think the hardest thing to quantify at KW is the who. Okay, like the model's great. Okay, the training's amazing, but if you don't have people like a Mike Brody or a Dick Dillingham or a Sue Hubeck there who follow the models, that are walking the walk, that care about their fellow stakeholders, that are willing to challenge you, you might not be where you are today if it wasn't for those people, right? The model's one thing, but the people are what took you from, coming here for, let's say, essentially the money and the training to being an evangelist leader for KW was that experience you had with the people, right? Because, the culture is one thing, but if we don't buy into it as ownership group, as leaders, as agents, then it doesn't really have a lot of meaning to it. You agree with that?
100%. And I have a great example of that. Joe and Mary Harker actually didn't come on the front end. So we actually got there a little before Joe and Mary Harker. That was a big deal when they came.
Yeah.
I didn't know the backstory on all of that. And Joe Harker was on our ALC. So think about this, team leaders, anybody that's listening right now. Joe Harker was on our ALC.
Yep.
Come on. So Joe, we had to pass something on ALC. This was like my second or third year at Keller Williams, my first year on the ALC. And there was something very sensitive that we were passing. And Joe picked me out, and I was on the, the financial committee, which was hilarious because I am the last person back then that you wanted on your financial committee. Yeah. And, but the team leader actually said, hey, Dee Dee, I think you should go on to Joe's committee and learn more about the finances. I thought, this is a really bad idea. But
you probably saw a future leadership right for you, and then knew that was something that would take you down that path.
100%. And then I fell in love with the financials, which was really weird. And so Joe Harker taught me what was really a buzz around this time was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know if it had just come out, Robert Kiyosaki. So we were learning all about the ESBI. So Joe drew it out for our committee. And, we talked about, moving from employee all the way to investor. And he explained that in such a way that made so much sense. And then he said, Dee Dee, I want you to present this to the ALC. And this is, what we want to, the message that we want to deliver on this new idea that we want the ALC to pass. And I believe it was buyer agent caps. So big, hot topic.
Yeah.
Whoa, they are sending me into the lions, right? This is like, I'm going to get eaten up. Is everybody else afraid to do this? Why are they sending the new person? And he prepped me so well for this. And so he was developing my leadership without me really understanding what he was doing. And then I presented to all of these icons in real estate, because that's who our ALC was at the time. And then it unanimously passed. And I was like, what? Do I have influence? Like, this is weird. And so these, talk about the people, those people made me who I am in business.
Well, I want to say this, I teach obviously the cash flow quadrant in my class. But I think it's important for people to understand the moment, right? Like this is late 90s for you that you were, right? So, this industry was always kind of on the left side of that quadrant, right? The employees and the self-employed, right? What made KW so unique is that we were the ones bringing the business-minded, the right side of the quadrant, the passive income, the exit strategy, right? So talk a little bit about, because look, did Sue talk about, teams were kind of a newer concept, right? And KW was kind of leading the charge on that. So talk about, first of all, I love that you brought that up because, I think it's a reflection of the moment that KW was in, right? Was that we were trying to bring the right side of that cash flow quadrant to the industry. Mm-hmm. And you just happened to be joining KW at that particular time. So was that, this idea of, hey, building a team, did they even have husband and wife teams at Ebby Holiday?
I don't think at the time they obviously came around to it very quickly afterwards, but I don't remember any at the time. There was one big team there. Cindy O'Gorman had a great team, and she's still amazing. And she was actually the person that I just did everything that she did to become successful in real estate, but nothing like Keller Williams. And it wasn't like she was opening her books like everyone at Keller Williams was doing. And Gary Keller was also doing his research for the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. So he had these masterminds going on with Craig Owen and all these great people. And Peggy Ritchie, who was another amazing icon in our office that we lost a few, it's been a while now. But Peggy asked Gary if Steve and I could go into that mastermind. Nice. That we were up and coming in the office, that we were really nailing it. And so we got to go and participate in those masterminds. So that's where we really learned about teams and had to up our game. And how we were going to leverage ourselves to where we needed to go next.
Right. And you probably saw, I don't know if ownership or the leadership opportunities or building your profit share was on the radar yet as one of those cash flow, one of those things. But talk about how you went from this leadership opportunity. You're talking about, you're presenting cash flow quadrant to the agents. What happens next? Obviously you guys are growing your business, right? KW is growing, I assume pretty quickly with those icon people in Dallas. So talk about when you started to kind of shift into leadership, shift into being intentional about profit share? When did the light bulb really go off for you at that moment? For that moment.
Thanks for asking that. So because I love profit share and I'm super passionate about it, and I want everybody to have profit share, and I'm very frustrated that only a 30% something, I
studied less than 30%. Yeah.
Anyway, that makes me crazy. So you can see me squirming in my chair right now just talking about it. So it took me about a year or two and some discomfort with it, because as I mentioned in my bio, I had more losses than wins, which most of us do, right? If you go up and you bat 1,000 times, you don't hit it out of the park 1,000 times. So I had to practice at being bad. And like Sue modeled for me, I had to go and be bad at it a couple of times.
And you went through that process as an agent, I would imagine, when you first got into real estate, right? You failed forward. You did not have a problem with rejection, obviously, right? I mean, it didn't feel good, but it made you stronger, right? And, and then looking back at, I can't remember the person who was who offered that prize you won, but obviously. What that wasn't going to necessarily be your style, or was it? Talk about how you got to this moment where you realized, okay, look, I want to get into profit share as this untapped sort of wealth building, legacy building opportunity at KW. What did you feel comfortable trying to recruit people? What were as far as agents you did deals with? Talk about how you evolved, your conversations and your persistence around being intentional about it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I made some mistakes in my mindset around this. We had goals for our profit share, which were really funny. I wanted 20,000 a year in passive income, and that included profit share and all my other things that I would eventually have.
Sure.
So that's another number we laugh at, right?
Yeah.
So we got intentional about it. Maybe 18 months, 2 years in. Things like Quantum Leap with Gary Keller, when you're writing down all those things, it's like, whoa, how are we going to do all of this? Yeah. Profit share is one of those things. Then it's like, whoa, let's have a game. Let's have all these income streams. So then you're like, 5 income streams. Is that enough? No. And then we start talking to people about being billionaires. Next thing we know, like, oh my gosh, we have 14 streams of income. How did this happen? Well, we had a goal for it. So it started with profit share. And so this profit share goal was real simple. We were going to, recruit whatever number that was at the time. Oop, am I kind of going out? There we go.
You're good. Keep going. I think you'll be okay.
And I started, let's start a real program with everyone I do a transaction with that I feel would be good in Keller Williams. I'm going to do a little follow-up program. So it was the handwritten note. It was the call. And it wasn't, hey, come to Keller Williams. It was like, wow, what a great transaction. You were so great. There's no way we would have gotten through that hot water tank issue had it not been for 2 professionals on this deal. So thank you. I hope we can do another transaction. In fact, I'm going to look for your name every time I sell a listing, whatever it was. Yeah. And so it became very relationship based. So there was one of my very first successes at this was a lady that I got to interview with our team leader, and I was good about my follow-up. So I call the team, it was my team leader. Yeah. I call the team leader, how'd the interview go? And he said, it went great. Yeah. He was a high I, so everything was great. And then I called the agent, said, hey, I heard that, I heard your interview went real great. What'd you think? I said, well, I don't think Keller Williams is for me. I'm like, what? And she goes, well, yeah, it feels a little salesy to me. It feels like it's all about recruiting people. And I was like, I said, well, what makes you say that? So she gave me some examples. I was like, ooh, okay. My team leader came off a little salesy.
Yeah.
Get it? And he was a great team leader, but I could completely see that because he was a great salesman, but he wasn't connecting with her why. He wasn't connecting with something that was important to her. So it gave me a chance to talk to her a little bit more about, what was important, what would have made a difference in that conversation. And I found out that she used to be a leader before she got into real estate, and she would love to be on a leadership path again. And so I thought, she'd be great on the ALC. She had the qualifications. I really need to get her into Keller Williams, and I just need to figure out a path. Yeah. Well, an opening in her market came up for a team leader. So I called the OP, who was a friend of mine. And I said, because she had launched out of our office, basically.
Sure.
So I called her and I said, hey, do you know this agent? Yeah, I do. What do you think about her as a team leader? I've been trying to recruit her, but I just haven't found the right words to, convince her that this is the place for her. And she was like, oh my gosh, I would love to talk to her about this. So I don't remember what program we were using back then. It was something with Recruit Select. I can't remember what we were using. So we started going through the process. It turned out that she was a great candidate. This OP and her connected. She became a team leader. Well, boom. And then after she was successful in that, she became a team leader in a bigger market, like one of our most successful markets.
I was
like, whoa, I think I like recruiting leaders.
Yeah.
Because number one, they have different mindsets around this stuff too.
Sure. They're influential. So right.
I kind of let that be my forte a little bit, but every person that I recruited that I felt or wanted to recruit that I felt like was a good match, I really was just in relationship with them, never asking them to come to Keller Williams, but asking them important questions like, wow, what do you do when you're not selling real estate? Would you like to do that more?
Yeah. And I know you're passionate, Dee Dee, about, when our associates refer people to a Keller Williams office, to a leadership team, I know you're passionate about what standards they need to live up to, right? To position themselves, one, to be the person chosen as the sponsor, but also to help that leadership team get the most out of that initial meeting. And my guess is if you had those conversations with her about leadership before you referred her, maybe that meeting with the team leader would have gone better because he would have been more prepared to understand what her hot buttons were, although he should have been asking those questions. But talk a little bit about, because I know you've been a team leader, you've seen all sides of this, and now that we're in the fourth industrial revolution with internet recruiting and all those things, which you've been I know you're a fan of people growing this company, but also you're a relationship based person. Talk about, it doesn't have to be so much specifically about internet recruiting, but just as a whole, what do you think the job is or the role of the referrer needs to be, and what kind of standards do they need to meet before and after they meet with KW to make sure that they're giving the leadership team the best sort of heads up on the recruit, what their hot buttons are, how they follow up, so that they're the natural decision for sponsor.
Okay, I love that. And by the way, when Facebook started getting real popular, I did recruit 2 people off of Facebook, not Facebook ads, relationships. So
sure, absolutely.
So to me, it's important to at least, because I've been on the other side of it as a team leader. The team leader has 27,000 things to do that day.
Yeah.
And they're only going to do 9 of them because 26,000 people are going to interrupt them.
Yes.
So they are, don't let your future rely on a person that has 27,000 things to do that day. Make sure you're breaking down the door if you have to, but you've got to be valid if you're breaking down the door. You can't just be throwing the phone book at them and saying, put them in my downline.
Well, with that said, Dee Dee, let's get real. I mean, you and I have been with KW for a long time. Pretty much the only thing that we were telling our agents for 30 years was, hey, look, get into relationships with these people. Just say you love KW. Can you have a team leader call you? Right now, we agree if that's all they would do, more of our associates would be participating in profit share. But you're also saying, look, that isn't quite enough, right? Like, actually, you can handle having a higher level conversation. You don't need to recruit these people, but you need to provide a little bit more value, right, to the recruit and to the leadership team if you want the best chance for them to join KW and put you down as a sponsor, correct?
Absolutely. And I know that's counter to, like you said, what we've been.
We're trying to change that. We're trying to change that. Honestly, I think these agents can handle it. They just need to be given the resources to have those conversations, And
so to become that agent, I think they need to, and this is the path I did, because actually I started recruiting instead of sending them to my team leader for a period of time, because I felt like the connection with me was stronger than the connection with a stranger.
Well, right. So, and you're a top agent who is buying into the training, the systems. You're an agent that these other agents respect. They see the way you're doing business. They see how it's grown. Why can't you take on a little bit more of that responsibility, particularly when you are that type of agent. Agreed?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So getting yourself ready for that. So I attended whatever profit share classes there were, and there weren't that many, but there were some. And then, going to the Keller offering so that you have a point of reference when you're talking to somebody, or just inviting them to anything that you think is great. And just having a real good understanding of the culture in Keller Williams and what your experience is and the goal setting and all the things that are important to owning a business, because there's still a lot of agents. This is relevant today. There are a lot of agents that are not running businesses. So that part is still important for them to make that transition over to, understanding our 6 personal perspectives.
Exactly.
Like anybody that gets that can recruit.
All right. So, I always tell people, look, walk the walk before you talk the talk. How can you possibly have a high level and, more importantly, authentic conversation with someone about KW if you don't participate in culture, if you haven't read the MREA book, if you don't come into the office for training, if you don't teach classes, if you don't seek out knowledge and referrals, if you don't help us evolve our tech, right? Like, how do you have a high level conversation? And the answer is you probably are not, and you're probably going to have profit share breath, right? Because we're all salespeople, okay? Yes. And when we feel like we're being sold by somebody, it's usually because that person doesn't come across as being authentic or care about what we think, right? So I just want to make sure people understand that the first step in having success in profit share is walk the walk, right? Be an agent people respect, participate in culture, right? So that you can speak to it in an authentic way, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So go ahead.
In those relationships with the team leader. So you're an agent. If you are an agent of influence already in your market, this is an easier conversation. If you're still striving to become that agent of influence, it's going to be, you're going to have to change the strategy up a little bit. Yep. But if you're an agent of influence and you call just about any team leader in your market that you feel like you're going to be recruiting to their office, and you let them know that you want to be a growth partner for them and that you're going to, help change the face of the market or just improve it if it's already great, that team leader is probably going to be open to receiving your phone call, because that you're leverage for them. They are expected to get their recruiting appointments done. And if you're handing them 2 or 3 or 5 or 12 a month, then you're going to be their best friend. Now, If you send them 12 a month, you're probably going to be their leading lead generator for them. And not all 12 are going to join. So you've got to have the right expectation for what is going to happen with that. When I switched over to being a team leader in 2005, my number one recruiter was an agent who had left Keller Williams because she moved and there was no Keller Williams office in her market. So she was with Remax, the only game in her town. Yeah. And she referred me the rookie of the year in my office 2 years in a row. She referred, her referrals were like gold. Anytime she sent me a referral, I stopped everything else to make sure that appointment got in front of me as fast as possible.
She had to leave KW because they closed the office, right? But she was
she moved to another market.
Okay, but she was still referring as a vested agent, or
she was a vested agent.
Yeah, I love that.
Now she moved back and she's with Keller Williams again, but that was, that was like 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in there. So, but she was my number one referrer, and I used her as an example many times. We made a big deal about profit share in the office, and this is the other thing, not just putting it on the agent, but also on the leaders. And when I say leaders, I mean ALC, I mean team leader, I mean OP, I mean regional director, I mean the whole line. And if profit share isn't on everybody's mind and growth, then people are going to be looking for it somewhere else. And so we can't talk about profit share, but not be passionate about it or never have it on the calendar.
Totally agree. And I want to say this, Dee Dee, I've been teaching around KW for a long time here. And, I got to tell you, one of the most disappointing things for me is when I show up to an office to teach my class and none of the leadership, including the ALC, are in the room. What kind of message is that sending your own associates when, and look, I'm not going to sit here and say how great my class is, but I'm just going to say it probably fits into the top 20% of classes that leadership should be taking in KW. And, I just and blown away, especially in this moment, in this market, when you and I both know now is the time to be leaning in to profit share. Okay. And the conversations around profit share are not about the money. And I think the problem we're facing right now, Dee Dee, is that, the industry's down. Okay. We had a bad year last year. Profit share's down a little bit, right? As we're kind of figuring our way. Look, caps are going down, right? And I think one of the big changes that we just made, I totally understand. Look, it's got to be a business worth owning for our owners too, right? And so when you have in an industry that is compressing agents' commissions and owners are making less money off of agents, right? Profit share's a little bit down right now. And so, but what people need to understand in this company is that now's not the time to ignore profit share. Now's the time to lean into the conversations, because Dee Dee, a conversation about profit share is a conversation about culture. Okay. And now is the moment culture needs to be brought to the top. And if we are not talking about profit share and how we are vested financially, Dee Dee, in a common goal, my guess is, I'm not a betting man, but my guess is our downlines intersect in multiple market centers. Okay. I got 1,300 people in my tree. They're in 300 offices. I'm just saying, you and I are vested financially in each other's success, right? These are the conversations that I'm worried are not being had right now in a shifting market when profitability is down, even though we did give back $100 million last year in profit share. But I'm just like, just going back to what you said, agents model after their leadership or the agents they respect. And if they are not talking about profit share or teaching profit share, then they can't be surprised when their office is not very profitable and agents are not giving their leadership team appointments. Agreed?
That's right.
Yeah.
We talk about it. What you focus on expands. And I know there's a lot of things out there to be focusing on right now.
Yeah.
But this is the fastest way to get success in a market center, by growth and then engaging your people and getting, your office meetings, your team meetings. Those are like the best platform to show off who is doing well in profit share and what their story is and what they're bringing it to a real place. Like, what are you doing? Shirley was my girl who was a great profit sharer in my market center. She was always referring people to me. Like, Shirley, what did you do with your profit share this month? Make it real.
Yeah.
Shirley would invest in real estate. She's double dipping, as you say. We're using our free money to make more free money.
Exactly. And look, maybe we should call our sales meetings stakeholder meetings, something I've been talking about for a long time. And Dee Dee, I think people need to really get this idea that whether you participate in profit share or not at KW, you're a stakeholder, whether you like it or not, right? We're vested in the success of our local market center, right? My guess is, Dee Dee, the more profitable my market center is, I'm thinking probably the more money and resources are going to reinvest back into me, the better the energy, the culture of sharing, the more people donate to KW Cares, participate in Red Day. And I want people to understand that 100% of KW associates are a stakeholder in their market center in this company, but unfortunately less than 30% of us are being financially rewarded for it. And I think at a time when we have these flashy new objects and these revenue sharing real estate companies that want to flex on how much money you can make off of a recruit in a revenue sharing model, I'm like, look, first of all, that's not why I do what I do. Okay. I do it because I believe in KW and who we are as a company and where we're going. But the bigger thing is this, Dee Dee, revenue share doesn't create culture. Okay. Especially when you're a publicly traded virtual company. My point is, if we don't talk about profit share right now at a time when, because we're scared that it doesn't compare to a rev share model, which by the way, doesn't care about profitability and will look great in a shifting market when profitability is not a factor. But the fact is, profit share creates culture. Okay. And culture is what we do best. Okay. And at a time when the industry is shifting and under assault, okay, and we seem to be more fragmented than we've ever been as a society, being a part of a company of 200,000 stakeholders that are bound together by community and purpose, right? That have an incentive to work together and care about each other. And, God forbid something bad happens to you and me, or something hits, a natural disaster hits our town, we're a part of something bigger. And I think the problem we face, Dee Dee, is if we don't talk about profit share more, it's going to be hard to continue to deliver on our culture at the highest level, because those two things are going to be always connected in KW. Do you agree with what I'm saying?
I so agree with that. And, I can remember even as an agent, getting a printer upgrade, a little thing like a copier in the office. If we get like the production copier that everybody loves, like we got that because profit share was up. Therefore, everything is better. So now you get more stuff.
Exactly. And Dee Dee,
everybody wins.
Is anybody saying Keller Who in Dallas anymore?
Nobody says it.
Yeah, I bet you all your agents enjoy the benefit of KW being the top company in Dallas, whether they participate in profit share or not, right? So, and are we not building tech together as this company to help, protect our agents from an industry that's now trying to turn them into, low paid door openers, right? So everything that KW, our why starts with treating agents like partners and stakeholders and creating this culture where we are vested in each other's success in an industry that's always been kind of an independent industry, right? And so that's what I want people to understand, is that we need to start talking about profit share, Dee Dee, because we're now on the third generation of KW, okay? And there are a lot of people, okay? Probably the majority of people in this company have not been with KW as long as you and me, and they don't know what it's like to be this emerging company and to be, to go to Mega Relief or to donate money to our agents in Des Moines, Iowa. I mean, I go around and tell these stories and people are like, I've never heard these stories. And I'm like, okay, well, where are we going to be in 40 years if we don't do a better job telling these stories, right? And everything that we talk about comes back to profit share, okay? This is why we care more about each other. This is why we, talk to our agents in Maui, talk to our agents in Fort Myers, Florida. They're going to tell you it's moments like those that you appreciate being a part of KW the most. And if we don't tether profit share to that conversation, it's not going to have the same impact, I don't think.
That's right. And I think it's important to say too, because you and I are big advocates for profit share. Yeah. And I don't ever want to come off as that person that's just like profit share, because even when I was recruiting actively because it was my job, that was the conversation that came up after I validated the rest of the points of the company. Exactly. And, Judy John said it the other day, you don't know who things are what's going to resonate with who. And she said what resonated with her was God, family, business. Yep. Well, when I first became team leader, that was something that was so important to almost every person that I talked to. Yep. And, I realized that, wow, what other company is talking about that? I know we don't talk about it as much as we used to. And we've got so many values that it's hard to hit every value that we have.
Of course. No, but God, as we know, Dee Dee, is what our associates define as God, right? I mean, whether it be being spiritual or whatever. I mean, there's a reason we do all these different prayers at family reunion and all this other stuff, is that what people, and I don't want to dilute God, family, business, but I want people to understand that, everything in KW is strategic. Okay. God, family, business is the golden circle, why, how, what. God, family, business. KW understands that agents that are driven by something more than just selling real estate are probably going to be more intentional and have a longer career. It does, so understand that God is our why, right? And when your why is big enough, whatever that means to you, the how is the easy part, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I want people to understand, Dee Dee, about KW, is that, I teach a 3-hour profit share class. I talk 10 minutes about profit share. Okay. The rest of my class is an unfiltered stakeholder meeting. And I want to make sure that they understand our why first before they go out there and try to talk to people. So look, we've got 10, 15 minutes left. I want to talk about the success you've had right now. I know that you never miss an opportunity to recruit. Okay. So let's quickly talk about, because you literally said, I will recruit people in the grocery store, here, on an airplane. Talk about, it's probably the same mindset of being a real estate agent, right? If don't be a secret agent, don't be a secret attractor to KW, but talk about how you get into these conversations with people that maybe aren't in real estate or are not on your radar, initially to recruit.
So first of all, there's some kind of weird vibe that realtors put out to each other wherever you are in the world. Like we end up next, like I could sit at a table with 1,000 people and only one is a realtor in the room, and that's the person sitting next to me.
Of course.
Yeah, so I've recruited people on their honeymoon in Tahiti. I mean, it's just like that conversation. Once you find out you're a real estate agent, like you have so much in common already. And just to let you know, I was in Greenland. No kidding, Greenland. Way over there, right?
Yeah.
In August, and a Coldwell Banker agent from California is in the hall. I was on a cruise ship actually, and we were doing some kind of little toast or whatever. She's in the hall. She's like, "Oh, so what do you do?" I said, "Oh, I'm a real estate agent." She's like, "Me too." We start talking, and she goes, as soon as I said I was with Keller Williams, she said, "Oh, what is going on? Y'all just pulled back all that money that all those people." Anyway. She was talking about the buzz around our profit share that's changing.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh my gosh." I said, "Explain that to me again." I was just like kind of dumbfounded that she messed it up so much. I said, "Explain it to me again." And I said, "Oh, I'm so glad we had this conversation, because you're going to be the one person in your company that actually knows what really happened." I said, "Like in your company, how much do you profit share back?" I just started with that. She's like, "Well, we don't have profit share." I said, "Oh, okay. So that's why it's probably so misunderstood."
Well,
so
that's a great point. We if we don't tell our story, Dee Dee, right, what happens? Our competition does it for us, right? And, we come from the days of pyramid scheme and Kool-Aid drinking, even though, not a lot of people are saying that anymore, but still being whispered. I mean, still to this day, we hear it a little bit. But now it's the new spin on what those policies mean, or profit share's broken, or KW's old school, and and I think what people need to understand is we are not going to have legacy thinking as a company. Okay. Mm-hmm. When we launched profit share 40 years ago, okay, there weren't tech disruptors. Okay. There weren't virtual real estate companies that were aggressively recruiting our stakeholders, spawned off from people that were at KW. And so once again, we reserve the right, and I'm sorry if you didn't read the fine print, okay, but we reserve the right to do whatever the heck we want to do. And that was the great thing about the ILC vote, which Dee Dee, anybody that knows me knows I had some ups and downs on that. I was on the task force. I, failed forward on some Facebook posts that did not go so well. But the point is, I got to understand it from a very unique perspective as I was talking to a lot of owners and leaders who I fully, respect at the highest level, that I realized, look, I've only seen things from the associate side, from the profit sharing side. This interdependent model has another side to it. And if it's not a business worth owning for our owners, or if it's not a leadership position worth having, we're not going to be successful as a company. So being able to adapt to the moment and to let our agents make those decisions is what makes us different. But once again, Dee Dee, how many different stories are being spun about what's going on with KW right now, because we are not telling that story, right?
Right. And that's why we also need to be educated about it. Yeah. Because let's face it, there are big gaps in things that have happened in the last couple of years, because I'm not as entrenched as I was before. However, I stay up on all of this because there's always an opportunity for me to explain it to somebody that will make a difference. There's another example of a person who is not, I did not recruit, but I assisted, so here's the other side of this, assisting in getting people.
You were a team leader, right? You became a team leader. You've been an OP, right? Regional leadership. Yeah.
Yes. So I happened to go up to the Panama City Beach office to learn their contracts, because Steve has his license here, but there's no way he's selling real estate. And I thought, I'll be his overqualified assistant. I'll go and just learn the contracts. And I met a lady that they had invited into the class. And boy, she was Keller Williams. Like, wow. She was just learning based and amazing. And she was going to team up with her husband, who was getting into the business. So she was just right for Keller Williams. Well, then I noticed on Facebook that she was at a convention for another company that was a, hard hitting company. And so I thought, oh boy, that's going to that's going to be impressive to her because she's like right in it. And so I just shot her a little message and said, hey, it was great to meet you at the class in Keller Williams. If you ever need any, insights, I've been here a little while and I can tell you from an agent's perspective or from anything that you want to know, happy to share. So, she was like, oh, thank you so much. That's great. Oh, I'd love to ask you. A week goes by. And I thought, I'm going to be brave enough to kind of say, hey, I saw you in San Antonio. I've got a lot of friends at that company. Obviously, if you've got any questions about that, I am happy to answer. And and also just kind of, share the perspective from, why I feel like Keller Williams is, where I should be, because everybody's got a spot.
Sure.
And I didn't trash the company. I didn't say anything that was not appropriate. And she's like, oh, thank you. Well, the next thing I know, she's at Mega Camp. So I said, oh, great opportunity. Just tell me, I'm just so curious. How did this compare? And she goes, I don't know. I'm really thinking about it. She goes, I really loved what I heard at Mega Camp. And so I went on vacation and I didn't have Wi-Fi for a little while, whatever. I kind of forgot about her. Yeah. And then she reached back out and she said, I really think I do need your insight. So I asked her, what's important to you? What's important? Why are you doing this? And I gave her my version of why I felt like I couldn't address the other company, but I could address Keller Williams. And by the time I got back from her vacation, the broker from the office had emailed me and said, thank you. Your conversation pushed her over the edge. So
she picked somebody else, right? As her
well, yeah, I had no right to be even considered. So that was no big deal because somebody else brought her to the table. Right. But I loved helping her because she's so awesome. And
And talk about that real fast, Dee Dee. How important is it for you? One, I mean, look, that's who you are as a person, okay? But are you still in leadership? I know you have ownership, yes, but are you? I
have ownership. Technically, I took a sabbatical at the end of 2019 so that I could travel the world in 2020. And then I just extended that. So now I'm kind of pseudo sabbatical and I get called into action when they need a superhero.
I love it. You're a leader, whether you get paid to be a leader or not. So,
I'm a volunteer leader.
What are your thoughts on the servant mindset of a leader of a market center, right? And their role in helping our associates convert, sponsorship. I mean, we don't have to go to, any negative with that, but what is the overall mindset when you're on the leadership team of a market center, or you're an associate like yourself who meets somebody at an event like Mega Camp? Obviously you didn't get them there, but what is that mindset that you adopt when you are in a leadership position, or that there's another person with a relationship that's probably, obviously more deserving of sponsorship? What's your thoughts around that or mindset?
Well, we're all winning when we grow with one person. So we are all winning there. So that part is really important to understand. I think particularly in the team leader role, and when I have hired a lot of really great team leaders, and the first thing I'm looking for is, are they capable of having that servant heart in addition to that growth mindset? Because there are some team leaders you hire and it's like, I'm going to grow my profit share. Yes, you can, but that's your work. You get that done. But if you get a referral into that office, you protect that with your
Sure.
With your heart.
And it's not an or. It's not an or conversation. It's an and conversation. You build your downline and you grow your market center through your associates. Obviously,
that's right. And if you do it right, then you've got a nice balance of both, so that you can end with your own downline built, but also you've improved the lives of all of these people in your market center or just in your Keller Williams community in general. So I think that person, that person's got to be geared toward that, to see the opportunity for themselves, but also to know that their opportunity is in helping others.
Yeah, and trust. I mean, obviously, trust plays a huge role in this. I mean, look, if we're going to be referring somebody to somebody in leadership to close the referral for us, we have to trust them to support us and all that stuff. Because if they don't, then you're probably not going to get a lot more referrals from them. And look, this is MREA book all day long, right? I mean, the most profitable, successful market centers are not the ones where the team leaders are cold calling. Okay. It's the ones where their agents are running into their room, giving them a name and number because they know one, they trust them. Two, they're going to help them convert them. And three, the market center that they're inviting them to is delivering on our value proposition at a high level. All right.
You're right. Trust is first in that communication, because there's many times as that team leader is sitting there and that person says, oh, my cousin's an agent in Oklahoma, but I know Bob, introduced me to you. What do I do?
Right. And by the way, Dee Dee, you know me, and you know that I want to raise the standards on the associate side too, right? So trust goes both ways, right? Pulling a resume off of Indeed and throwing it at a team leader and say, make sure they put me down as your sponsor, right? That's not developing trust with leadership, right? Or with the recruit. So we all need to understand that the bar needs to be raised on all sides if we want this to really be a win-win moving forward for everybody. And, in that scenario that you said about, hey, I have a cousin at KW, but this other person was influential in getting me to KW. I mean, my immediate response is, well, maybe that associate that refers you should have asked you if you had a family member at KW. Because honestly, and I don't care what anybody says, if you have a family member at KW, that person should be their sponsor. Because God family business, period, end of story. Okay. So I always ask those questions up front, because if they have a family member at KW, I don't want to compete with that relationship. Right. All right. So look, you have about 557 people in your tree right now, right? How many people on your first level did that take roughly to get to that?
I think I've got 19 right now, and I kind of run between 18 and 20 pretty consistently.
And you've made how much lifetime, you and your husband?
We're over 500,000. I've got I haven't looked at it in the last month or two, but over 500,000 is not too shabby for a girl that used to make 14,000 a year. So. And
what do does most of that come off your top levels, your bottom levels, in the middle?
It's coming out of that fat section now, that 5, 6, and 7, which is amazing. And in fact, this year over last year, we've grown by 110 people in level 5, 6, and 7.
Oh, wow.
So that's been huge growth on that level.
That's amazing. And my guess is, even though you guys are hugely successful as agents and as owners and investors, isn't it kind of fun to think that Profit Share has literally funded all your travel? I mean, for the last couple of years and moving forward. I mean, I've seen your Facebook posts. I love you because I'm a huge travel guy too. But if you took away that profit share money and then you put it into an account, and that would be funding all of your traveling from now until the end of time, right?
Well, it could. We used to use it to invest in real estate, and that is awesome. But now we do use it for fun, and we use it for travel. But I will confess, my travel is so much more elaborate. It has outpaced my profit share, and I just can't go back to what I had to do before when it was back in, in the cheap seats.
Well, the good thing is, Dee Dee, is that I personally believe we're about to have a moment as a company. And now maybe I'm drinking too much of the Kool-Aid, but last time I checked, KW was born in a shift. Yeah, we took over the industry in the last shift, and I have a feeling we're about to kind of redefine the industry, in this present shifting industry. And look, we've been a sleeping giant for 6 to 8 years while we've been building our tech, right? Because building tech is messy, and all these new flashy objects are coming out, talking about their agent models. We're building this consumer-centric, agent-driven model, and I just feel like, as this market kind of comes back a little bit, I think profit share is about to take the next big jump in our company. And the great thing about you, Dee Dee, is that you don't have to do another thing. And your profit share is going to keep growing and growing and growing. And you guys have kids, yeah?
We do. We have, in fact, we're going to Paris next week to celebrate one of their birthdays. She wanted to go to Paris, not like a normal person to go somewhere easy. Paris. So it's fashion. It's like the week before, 2 weeks before Fashion Week or something.
When your mom and dad are the Trosclairs, you ask for something big.
She's doing it on her own dime. So
great. That's great. We're going to Paris in January for our 15th anniversary. So it'll be snowing. It'll be romantic. My wife will be very excited about that. But talk about, just as we end this here, Dee Dee, what's that legacy, right? I mean, you guys have investments and all that other stuff, but knowing that someday this can be passed on to your kids, your grandkids. What does that mean to you when you look back at this career you've had from being a seventh grade school teacher to literally traveling the world like a boss, and knowing that if you never sold another house again, you wouldn't have to work, your kids are going to be taken care of. What does that mean to you, and how does that how does it make you feel after all these years and the journey you've been on?
Yeah, well, I love the question because it is so important at the heart of everything we do, right, at Keller Williams. And so my kids were along on this journey, even though they were a little older when I got to Keller Williams. They were along on this journey, and I feel like they have earned this profit share as much as I have, because they've heard the conversations. They've been in the car with me when things have happened, and I've modeled it for them. They're both entrepreneurs, very successful now because of what we learned at Keller Williams. So this profit share is just continuing what they started with us along the journey.
That's awesome. Either any of the kids going to get into real estate at all, and take over?
Absolutely not. They are very independent on their own, and they both are using what they learned watching us in real estate to create very big opportunities for themselves.
How many people do you have on your team right now?
Actually, we are, Steve and I are not, we don't have a team right now. So we're truly,
Listen, you're my dream board. Okay. I am not one of those people that needs to work to live a fulfilling life. I will be more than happy to travel the world and build my little animal sanctuary in Puerto Rico and live the happiest life. But Dee Dee, I can't thank you enough today for taking the time to talk to us. Look, if all we do is inspire one person, it's a total win. But I've always appreciated your support, your enthusiasm around profit share. We need more people like you out there advocating and showing people the power of profit share. I mean, I just feel like it's such an untapped opportunity at KW. And look, I'm all about gross recruit, but I actually think the next wave of profitability in KW is going to come from within, from raising our people that we're already in business with.
Amen.
And I just can't wait to see what happens next. And hopefully am I going to see you in Vegas, or are you going to be traveling during family reunion?
Oh, I'm going to be having a medical procedure. Okay.
Well, I have a feeling I'll be having a better time than you during that time. I wish you the best for that. And look, I look forward to coming back to Dallas at some point, giving you a big hug. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you do, Aaron.
Take care. All right.
Bye-bye.